Welcome to Godlike Gaming. Let's dominate. Today I want to answer one of the most asked questions: which ship to purchase, FDR or Shinano? It's $1 million question after all. In this video I'm going to compare each squadron directly and explain what you should expect from them. Then I'll break down the major role of each carrier, so you understand what your purpose should be with each of these vessels. Finally, I'll give you tips on which game modes are most suitable for each carrier. Knowing all these elements will help you to make the best decision according to your own preferences. And at the end, I will reveal my own ideal choice based on my personal experience. Let's begin with the general difference in squadrons. FDR planes come in massive numbers and have huge HP bars, which means each individual aircraft has a much more health compared to Shinanos that allows you to tank some serious AA. But here's the catch: the reload cycle is 30 seconds, so if you miss your shot or can't get the correct angle and want to retry in the same flight, you'll have to wait half a minute. This rules applies to every squadron that comes in an FDR, so keep that in mind. You need to be very confident when striking with FDR. Shinano, on the other hand, plays like a normal CV that you're probably already familiar with. Now that you know the key differences, let's compare each squadron directly. I'll start with the most iconic squadrons, the HE bomber planes. Both carriers have dive bombers and both drop exactly 8 bombs. However, Shinano uses a tactical squadron for bombers, which means it uses all of its plane in one attack. Each plane drops 1 bomb. FDR, on the other hand, uses only 2 planes per attack, but each plane carries 4 bombs. On top of that, Shinano's dive bombers have the ability to use smoke generators to provide cover for itself or its allies. This feature alone gives Shinano the flexibility to play as a semi-support vessel, and in case of the bomber squad, the overall damage output on an FDR is larger than Shinano. Another major difference between Shinano's bombers and FDR is the refresh mechanic. Shinano is based on a refresh timer, 2 minutes without any upgrades or commander skills. This means even if you lose all your planes in one attack, it doesn't affect you at all. 2 minutes later, you will have a full squadron ready to launch again. But keep in mind, even if you cancel your attack and recall your planes by pressing F, you still have to wait that 2 minutes until it refreshes again. FDR, on the other hand, plays like a traditional CV. As soon as the planes fly back on the deck or you have some in reserve, you're able to launch the same squadron again. So you should try to keep your planes alive, otherwise it can be depleted. Now is the time for the second most popular squadron, the torpedo bombers. Shinano has 9 of them per flight and uses 3 planes per attack. And each plane carries 1 torpedo, but each torpedo deals a good amount of damage. To simplify it, landing just 2 torpedoes with Shinano roughly equals the same amount of damage as hitting 4 torpedoes with an FDR. And here is the catch: since Shinano's planes have significantly lower HP, there is a high chance you won't be able to strike at all if you dive recklessly, and the chances of missing your torpedoes are much higher since you really need to aim carefully to land those hits. On the other hand, FDR deploys 2 planes per attack, and each plane drops 4 torpedo bombs, creating a curtain of 8 armed torpedoes per strike. And well, American torpedoes kind of guarantee a flood every 3 hits, and this is what makes FDR very overpowered and probably one of the most hated aircraft carriers by players who have to face it, of course. And now the final squadrons to compare. These are basically two very different squadrons, and comparing them doesn't make much sense in some ways. It's like comparing apples with bananas. But since they come with the ships we're comparing in this video, I'll just explain them individually, because this makes the most sense to myself. So let's begin with Shinano, which has AP skip bombers that can be either completely useless or very powerful. So powerful, you can literally wipe out a light cruiser in one attack if it's aimed correctly. And of course, you need a little bit of luck with RNG. So, as you already know, skip bombers drop the bomb into the water first, and it bounces until it reaches the target. This behavior requires a very specific attack pattern, meaning you always have to land it on broadside, otherwise even if you hit on the bow, it deals 0 damage. And each attack cycle drops only 4 bombs, which makes timing even harder, and you'll need to practice to master it. And another downside, in some cases you're facing a super beefy ship, something like GK, the German battleship. Even if you aim correctly and land every single bomb, the damage heavily depends on RNG. You may even end up doing no damage at all. On the other hand, FDR has rocket launchers, and they release 52 rockets per attack, which is a significant amount in World of Warships. And here is the catch. The delay before they actually release those rockets is almost 7 seconds, and that 7-second delay makes landing them so hard that many players prefer not to use the attack squadron at all. However, if you spend time mastering the aim and get used to the delay, it becomes a serious weapon of destruction. On paper, if you land every single rocket and RNG counts each of them as penetration, it deals 85k damage in a single attack. But we all know that's a very unlikely scenario to happen, but the chances are never 0. And according to my own experience, even a not so perfect shot usually gives you around 14k damage on a battleship. And yes, I had moments where I dealt 40k damage in a single attack on a stationary CV myself, so it's doable but situational. Now you know the major differences between these two carriers, but which game type is the most suitable for each of them? Basically nothing stops you from picking either of them in any game modes, but according to my own experience, Shinano performs better in ranked battles. That's mainly because FDR can be easily countered if your opponent's CV decides to play a support role just to shut you down. In simple terms, if you're facing an S6 in ranked and the captain knows what they're doing, you become completely useless in an FDR no matter how skilled you are. It basically feels like they designed S6 just to counter FDR for game balancing matters, of course. And since that's a conditional weakness, I'd say Shinano is better for ranked battles. However, FDR performs really well in random battles, because the map is bigger, the number of players is higher, and a support CV like S6 can't really choke you to the point that you become useless. Also, FDR outperforms in brawl battles. Yes, it sounds insane to say CV in a brawl, but trust me, I've tried it and it really shines when CVs are allowed in that mode. And the SX problem doesn't exist in brawls, because if someone brings an SX into a brawl, it technically means they're handicapping themselves. Alright, according to all the data I gave you, you should be able to decide what suits you the best and what you want. But now is the time to reveal my own personal preference as promised at the beginning of this video. So which CV I would go with? I choose FDR over Shinano because it deals a very serious amount of damage. I'm talking about 150k average per match, and yes, you need to practice aiming, get used to all those delays before attacks. But once it's masters, FDR is going to rule, especially in random battles. No condition matters. Once you enter the fight, you come out with at least 150k damage regardless of any other factor. And this is how you earn your CV Mastery emblem. Also remember, this is my personal preference. Don't let it discourage you from ever picking Shinano. Shinano is a very good carrier as well, but I just prefer FDR. Alright, that's for today's video. Don't forget to sub, and God is out!